Hey, if you're just joining us, I'm Tom McKay with 3D Politics, another exciting episode on another exciting Monday night. I've got all three Davids tonight. David Van, David Oldham, and David D'Ambroso. David Van with SoonerPolitics.org, David Oldham with ConstitutionalGrounds.com, and of course, David D'Ambroso. You can find him on Facebook at Dave D'Ambroso. And me, Tom McKay, your fantastic host. Just talk to me right here on 3D Politics. Hey, we're going to talk a little bit about former State Senator John Bennett, State Representative, sorry. Yeah. Something about terrorists, and it ties in to that some people did something.
Yeah. I tell you what,
that's an intro.
I really enjoy a get-together we do here once a month in Tulsa Republican Men's Club. It's the only Republican men's club in the state that's active right now. And I know you were sitting right next to me at the last meeting, and John Bennett was our speaker. Now, John's former Marine, careerman who retired. Then he ran for office. He became a state representative. And John's a firebrand. John's a take-no-prisoners kind of guy. He's a good friend of Mark Wayne Mullins and a number of people that we respect highly here. But John comes from a place where he had to confront terrorism head-on in Iraq with a more radical element of Islam.
It becomes personal.
Yeah. And so his perspective, I think, is going to be, pretty passionate because, I mean, his own life and the life of the men in his unit was very much, on the line here. One of the rumors that's been going around, I decided I was really going to study on, and Dave, you were there, Oldham, when I asked him, is there a radical jihad training camp in eastern Oklahoma? And John said, yes, there's evidence of it. It's in Talihina, and he said, I'll send you the data we have on it, whatever is clear to do. And sure enough, the next day he sent it to me. So I studied it, and then I was getting ready for a trip to Minnesota to also follow up on another one of his comments about the massive immigration.
John Bennett's just sending you all around on assignment.
Well, I was planning to go there, and John said,
a laser pointer.
I kid you not, he literally said, I will not step foot in Minnesota. And I said, actually, I'm scheduled to go up there.
You mean the Caliphate?
Yeah, so anyway.
The New World Caliphate.
Well, because the last time, or recently when I was up in Minnesota, I stayed with a friend in an area of this little college town called St. Cloud. You may have heard it if you listen to Garrison Keillor's Prairie Home Companion, because the St. Cloud was that town that the youth go to be corrupted. Right? Yes.
Sounds like it.
And
sounds very Catholic.
So in South St. Cloud, there's an area known as Little Somalia now.
Why do they call it that, David?
Because they've got, in this town of about 70,000 people, college town, there's over 15,000 Somalis brought in by the liberal mayor, Mark Dayton.
I bet they have the best economic and social outcomes of
It's
anywhere in
say it with me, it's the largest Somali population.
It's the largest saturation, I'll say that. Minneapolis has a lot more Somalis, but of course that's
the most concentrated
in a small town. Yeah, it's unbelievable.
Tell me, do they have flying cars yet, David?
No. So when I was there in 2016, and I stopped by the local mall there and stuff, come back down 3 days later, there's a mass terror going on. One Somali guy takes out a knife and starts stabbing. There are 10 victims there, bloodied, and screaming for their lives.
In St. Cloud?
In St. Cloud, at the Crossroads Mall. I used to work at that mall.
That's very strange, because that sort of thing doesn't happen in Somalia.
And it was a concealed carry instructor happened to be there, shot and killed the lone terrorist, and put that down. Yes.
So was the terrorist Highland cut?
I don't know.
So is that why the
But-
Democrats don't want us to have guns? Because then we'll end up shooting their
Yeah.
constituents
One
that
more.
go
Yeah.
and murder
No.
And you
civilians.
have a license for the knife. Okay, go ahead. Everybody gets to take a shot.
Yes. In Minneapolis now, over 45 convictions have taken place now of recruiting terrorists to go into the hotspots of the world, right there from the Somali refugee population.
How do they document that?
This
So
is
it
FBI
looks like
convictions.
Okay, FBI.
Yes, this is FBI convictions.
FBI
You know, investigations and convictions in federal courts. So in Minneapolis, the saturation is so big that they've got such political power. We now have a woman named Ilhan Omar, a
Right.
Somali refugee
Right.
from Minneapolis. So
Beautiful girl.
it has an impact. And so the concerns are really great there. Now, I've watched this over the last 4 years. I decided to go up there this time and check it out myself. And the cultural enmity is just as bad, maybe worse than it was 3 years ago when that knife attack, terror attack happened. They're very private, very much to themselves.
Who?
The Somali community there. And it lacks the signature things you see when you take some other ethnic groups that come, whether they're from Asia or whether they're from Europe or whether they're from South America. That excitement about being an American, living the dream, and that it's not there. Instead, there's a greater sense of a chip on the shoulder.
I heard there's a little bit of excitement about being married to your brother.
Yeah,
That is
yes.
Omar.
To that point, a disdain for the cultural values of this
Right.
A rejection
So-
a purposeful rejection
Yeah.
of assimilation.
Now, that was good. Write that
No,
down.
I will tell you that my own personal anecdotal experience. My daughter is a nurse at the Mayo Clinic in Rochester. We go to visit. We go to the Mall of America, and my wife, she was like, "Well, these people are rude."
Yeah.
And my daughter was like, no, it's just a cultural difference.
No.
And we go back again another year, and my wife goes, these people are literally rude.
Yeah.
Okay, and my daughter was like, oh, no, it's just a cultural difference. And the reality is, these people are literally rude. They purposefully deny the opportunity to act as a business person in America the way that we do in America.
Yeah.
They do not do the personal touch of the whole consumerism
Yeah.
thing.
So, I thought you meant that they didn't bother to get permits and things like that.
They might not.
So I want to say the things that Bennett had to say about that. If you live in central Minnesota or in the Twin Cities area, it's a lot more real to you than it might be being an Oklahoman.
Sure.
And a lot of this was brought about by a very liberal governor, an heir to the Dayton Hudson Corporation, Target stores. You know, yeah, that's
so weird how they're so rich
Yeah.
all the time.
Right. Yes, and
So rich.
and he came up to St. Cloud 3 years ago and told the local folk, if you don't like it, you leave the state.
Right.
You know, and so
sounds reasonable.
now Catholic
That's what I
Church.
say when I go to Somalia. You don't like where I am, get out of your country.
Now
Some people need to leave.
two of the charities that really got involved in this, Lutheran Social Services and Catholic Charities. Now, Catholic Charities has since backed out of it. They said, we're focusing on the homeless problem and, and some of the pro-life issues. So they backed out of that. There's a number of things happening. So
After they contributed to a whole mess of the problem.
Yes.
They're just the first rat off the
Okay.
scene.
The anecdote.
So
I got a friend who's getting married soon, and she did some work with Dinesh D'Souza. And I think some people know who we're talking about, but I'm not going to name her specifically. She talked about living in Minnesota, and she relayed some of the stuff that David Vans told me behind the scenes. If we had more time, I'm sure to get into, but just the Somalis in Minnesota, the Muslim community. You'll have two women, and they'll just be screaming at each other like they're about to murder each other, and it's a mother and a daughter, and that's just a cultural sort of reality. it's a little bit of a different propriety in public.
It gets even worse. I'm sitting on the front steps at my friend's house up there in St. Cloud, and two Somali women walk by. And I guess yes, I'm being prejudiced. They dress like Somalis, okay?
Were they covered?
I will assume. And
Okay.
one was walking 5 paces behind the other. And I believe it was a mother-in-law, daughter-in-law thing. And the daughter-in-law, which had to walk 5 paces behind, was screaming at the mother-in-law there. And they're not allowed to walk side by side. This is, but anyway, that's okay. If they would do that, that's their
Well,
whatever. What
I'm
she
not
said
saying
is,
anything
you know,
wrong with
you
that.
know,
The only thing in this whole thing that matters, because cultural differences don't matter. What
Exactly.
matters is whether or not everyone, and this means native-born Americans, whether or not you have submitted and submitted yourself to the Constitution.
Mhm.
Because that is what we have all,
Right.
by being American, that's what we consent to. And if we are not going to consent to the Constitution, then get out.
well, yeah,
Because you can go somewhere else that they have
Sure.
some other form
Yeah,
of
you
rule
like the
that
Sharia
you should
law.
like.
There are plenty of places that
Exactly.
are very
So,
successful.
Yeah.
That's
Let me-
what we should
let-
really
let me
make
say-
sure we're focusing on.
This ties into Trump
Yeah,
goes
let
to
me
Minneapolis.
segue to that. And just, John Bennett, I appreciate what he's doing with law enforcement, getting proper data. It's important that we upgrade these things because the terrorist training camp found out was an issue in the 80s and in the early 90s. The data says those guys left and moved to Dallas. So this was before the 9/11
Your problem
thing.
now, Texas.
Yeah, it was. Yes, it was an encampment. It was about
Couldn't
six trailer houses on that. So
I'm relieved.
there's
I
that,
need
yeah.
to hear no
But,
more further on this.
shout out to my friend Mr. Bennett and what he's doing there.
At
Now,
least somebody's looking.
yeah,